in 27 and 28, they're going to say, war in Iran, what happened there? Energy shock, inflation.
Why have no new wars, man? And you ran on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And what did you do? Why didn't you oppose it, et cetera? And I think that what happened with Sachs, Kent, and Tucker is they are trying to help extricate him from the liability of the conflict. They're going to try and give him an out. And Tucker's got this interesting line. He's been interviewed a few times recently, New York Times, with the British journalist, with Jack Neal, somebody else the other day. And they say, so what do you think about Vance? And Tucker has this habit of saying, oh, well, he's got the hardest position in the world because, we all voted for Trump and placed all our hopes upon him. And, Vance just has to do whatever Trump says. If Trump betrays the voters and takes us to war, Vance's job is to support Trump. So he really has no choice in the matter. Even if he opposes it and it's bad, well, what can he do? It's just so unfortunate. And what that belies is they don't want him to catch the blame for this next year. And I think now, this is why Vance is throwing himself in front of the peace process. This is why he wants to be the guy in Islamabad. He wants to be the guy at Switzerland that's negotiating the MOU, because this is going to be a huge liability, a huge hot potato they're going to have to neutralize in 27, because they're going to be asked okay, Iran war, what did you do?
Completely split the base, dude, this war.
Yes, and his answer is going to need to be something like, well, my job was to support the president. I had no say in the matter. As the vice president, my job is to do what he tells me. But what I did is I brokered the peace, and I was instrumental in ending it, and blah, blah. And then the endorsements from Kent, Tucker, and Sachs are going to become critical, because all these people that are furious about the war and are leaving the GOP because of it, they're now aligned with Tucker and Kent and saying, oh, these guys are patriots. They're criticizing it. If those guys come around and endorse Vance, it's oh, okay, he's cool.
I see what you're saying.
He can't criticize the war.
They're creating his off-ramp right now is what you're saying.
Yes. Smart. They're trying to salvage him. So that, that's what's going on there.
So what is Fuentes actually saying? Vance needs to distance himself from Trump. He needs to get as far away from Trump as possible, from the wars, from the chaos. And personally, I think he needs to get away from Israel and all of that. He needs to really distance himself. He needs to be the guy that says enough is enough. And he's trying to be that candidate, the peace candidate. And look, that's not crazy, because the American public, they're exhausted. I think we're all exhausted with the headlines of Iran, Israel, Lebanon. I think we're all pretty much done with it. So who does Vance need on his side for this whole playbook to work? He needs Tucker Carlson. He's going to need Joe Kent. I think he needs everybody on the right that is anti-war. The people who've been the loudest about pulling back from foreign entanglements. And here's what's interesting, because Tucker and Joe Kent are openly against the war, and that's not manufactured. I think they're honestly against the war, and I think it's real. So Vance aligning with them isn't random. It is very smart and very strategic. And Fuentes read is that Vance is essentially throwing himself in front of the peace process. And I don't think it's because he's a pacifist, but I think it's because it's the smartest political lane available to him right now to get anywhere near the presidency in 2028. And I think it's a very smart move. JD, I think he's a smart guy. You can't take that away from them. But it does get very complicated from here. Theo Vaughn asked Tucker Carlson about Palantir. That is a company that is owned by Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel pretty much funded and manufactured JD Vance. He plucked him out of nowhere and made JD Vance that who he is today. Completely funded his whole political career in Ohio. So think about that. Peter Thiel owns Palantir, a company worth over $200 billion, a company that has U.S. government contracts. And Tucker says, yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I have no idea what he's talking about. Have a listen.
Isn't Palantir, they're going to do our data now, aren't they? Aren't they going to,
I don't know,
oversee us?
I don't know. I see a lot of
isn't Palantir, they're going to do our data now, aren't they? Aren't they going to,
I don't know,
oversee us?
I don't know. I see a lot of people referring to that, but I'm just going to have to plead ignorance on the
And this
details.
is allegedly, but there's articles that allege that that they have weapons attached to drones and that they're able to figure that out. Palantir Technologies holds multiple major contracts with the U.S. government, particularly with the Department of Defense, highlighted by a recent U.S. Army enterprise agreement valued up to $10 billion over 10 years. Let me see. Consolidating 75 prior contracts into one for software and data services to boost military readiness.
Now, just keep it. That looks like it's from Wikipedia, which is obviously controlled by CIA.
This is Perplexity right here.
What's that?
Perplexity is a company that advertises with us. It's an AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So you have Tucker Carlson, the man who has a podcast specifically about things the mainstream media won't tell you, who claims to be an outsider, who positions himself as if the guy that asks all these hard questions. He pled ignorance about Palantir, acting like he knew nothing about it. And then Nick Fuentes, he actually pointed that out too in one of his clips. He said, Tucker will literally entertain every conspiracy theory under the sun, except for the ones that point back to Peter Thiel and Palantir. And Tucker is one of the people Vance needs in his corner. So ask yourself, if Tucker is backing Vance and Tucker conveniently knows nothing about Palantir and Vance was built by Peter Thiel, what exactly is Tucker endorsing here? Look, we're talking about power, surveillance, and government control. And one thing that is always true when power gets this concentrated, the dollar gets weaker, inflation gets worse, and the people who saw it coming, the ones who got out of the paper assets early, they're the ones who actually protect their wealth. Augusta Precious Metals makes it very simple to move your retirement savings into gold and IRA-approved silver. No pressure at all, no gimmicks. They will literally walk you through it for free. If you have any interest, just text Delania, DELANIA, to 35052. I'll also add a link in the description below. Trust me, it's at least worth 5 minutes of your time. Now let's go back to the beginning, because JD Vance did not happen organically. Before his book Hillbilly, before the Senate seat, before the vice presidency, JD Vance was a venture capitalist working for a firm called 𝐼RA Capital. Who backed 𝐼RA Capital? Peter Thiel, to the tunes of millions of dollars. And Peter Thiel just didn't write a check. He vouched for JD Vance publicly. He donated $15 million to Vance's Senate campaign in Ohio, where Vance was polling in single digits. Thiel's money arrived, and then Thiel essentially created this political version of JD Vance. Now, why does the Silicon Valley billionaire care so much about a Senate seat in Ohio? Because Peter Thiel, he thinks long-term, very long-term. And JD Vance in the Senate in 2022 is a step one of this much longer. And Peter Thiel is not just a tech investor. He's the co-founder of Palantir Technologies, a data analytics and AI surveillance company that holds some very sensitive government contracts in the world. So what does that actually mean? Palantir was seeded with funding from In-Q-Tel, and that is actually the CIA venture capital arm. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's actually on record. The company calls itself a non-government organization, or essentially an NGO. And what that technically means, it avoids the oversight that applies to actual government agencies, but is run on taxpayer money, billions of dollars of taxpayer money. And Palantir holds a U.S. Army enterprise agreement valued up to $10 billion, and that is over 10 years. They've received a $795 million modification to their Maven Smart System contract, the AI program for military targeting. Plus, they have a $178 million tactical intelligence targeting access contract. So essentially what that means is Palantir's AI is helping the military decide who to target. And Palantir is not just military. They have contracts with ICE, with federal law enforcement. They process massive databases, financial records, location data, social connections. They build profiles on people. This is the company that Peter Thiel built. And Peter Thiel pretty much built JD Vance. So when you ask what a JD Vance presidency means for Palantir, the answer is pretty straightforward. Palantir goes from being a well-connected government contractor to having its founder's political protege in the Oval Office. So think about that. And think about what that unlocks. Now here's where it gets really interesting and really uncomfortable. Peter Thiel is a vocal supporter of Israel. He has donated significant sums to pro-Israel causes and candidates. He's been very public about his views. Meanwhile, poll after poll shows that a majority of Americans, not just left, not just progressive, not young, old, I think everybody wants to fundamentally rethink the U.S.-Israel relationship. Some want to sever it completely. I think they should be completely severed. So here's the tension. JD Vance is literally positioning himself as the peace candidate, the anti-war guy, the one who's going to bring the troops home and stop the whole interventionism. But he was funded into existence by a man who strongly backs one of the most contested foreign policy alliances in American history. Can you be the peace candidate if your patron isn't interested in the peace? Can you credibly distance yourself from a foreign entanglement when you owe your entire political career to someone with deep ideological and financial ties to Israel, a foreign state? I think those are big questions to ask. I really do. Now think about it. Palantir is an AI surveillance company. Its entire business model is built on collecting data, identifying patterns, and tracking people. That's their whole entire business. If JD wins in 2028, and right now his positioning is smart enough that it's actually a real possibility, what is that relationship between the White House and Palantir? What does it actually look at that point? We already know that Palantir operates with minimal judicial oversight. We already know it processes data on American citizens. And we already know it's expanding its AI capabilities and rapidly. A JD Vance presidency doesn't mean more Palantir contracts. It potentially means Palantir inside the architecture of the government itself, very integrated, embedded, with the blessing of an administration that owes its whole existence to the Palantir's founder, Peter Thiel. Is that a surveillance state? You tell me. The irony is rich. The anti-war, peace, and freedom candidate, the one Tucker Carlson and 𝐬𝐻𝐭 are lining up behind, could be the Trojan horse for the most sophisticated domestic surveillance infrastructure the country has ever seen. And Tucker Carlson doesn't know anything about it. Look, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. That's not what this is all about. I'm here to just ask the questions nobody really wants to talk about in the mainstream media. Who funds our candidate matters. Who funds the people who funds our candidate really matters. And what those people stand to gain if your candidate wins. That's the whole entire game. JD Vance's 2028 strategy might be politically brilliant. The peace lane is real. The coalition, it's building and is really buildable. But before you get swept up in it, you have to ask who built the candidate. Ask what they want and ask, I don't know, what it really means when the stakes are this high. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Are you going to vote for JD Vance in 2028? Let me know. I think, is he going to be able to distance himself from Palantir? I don't know. I think I said, I think Peter Thiel was in the long game. He knows what he was buying into. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, share. Really interested to know what you guys think. See you on the next one. Bye.